Picture yourself in December 1986. You're 14 years old. Your mom drops you off at the main entrance, and the second you push through those glass doors, you're somewhere else entirely. The air smells like warm Cinnabon and chlorine from the fountain downstairs. There's a Sam Goody on your left, blasting the new Bon Jovi album. An orange Julius dead ahead. Some kid in a members-only jacket is feeding quarters into the Aladdin's Castle arcade. You've got $16 in your pocket, a 10 and a 5, and a crumpled single, and that feels like more than enough for the entire afternoon. A slice of Sbarro, a poster from Spencer Gifts, maybe even a pair of parachute pants if they're on sale at Chess King.
The mall isn't just a place to buy things. It's the place. It's where you go on your first date, where you meet your friends on Friday night, where you learn how to walk past 3 girls from your biology class and act like you didn't see them, even though you definitely did. The mall is freedom. The mall is possibility. The mall is America.
Now picture that same building today. The fountain is dry, has been for years. There's rust around the drain. The Sam Goody is a spirit Halloween that opens in September and closes in November. The arcade is a storage closet with a padlock on the door. The only sound is your own footsteps, echoing off the tile. Maybe a distant vacuum cleaner, some maintenance guy who looks like he lost a bet. A security guard on a Segway nods at you. There are maybe 8 other people in the entire building, and none of them look like they're shopping. From this to this, in less than a single human lifetime.
How did this happen? How did America build the most ambitious indoor public spaces in human history, 2,500 cathedrals of commerce, and then just abandon them? And here's the part nobody talks about. How did the man who invented the American mall, a Jewish refugee from Vienna with $8 in his pocket, die regretting the entire thing? His name was Victor David Grunbaum. He was born in 1903 in the heart of Vienna to an upper-middle-class Jewish family. And if you want to understand the American mall, really understand it, you have to understand something about Vienna first. In Vienna, public life happened on the street. People walked. They lingered. The cafe was your second living room. You could sit for 4 hours with a single coffee and nobody would hand you a check. The town square wasn't just a place you passed through. It was the center of civilization. You met your neighbors. You argued about politics. The butcher knew your name. The baker knew your order. Life happened in public, together, every day. Young Victor absorbed all of this. He studied architecture at the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts. He opened a firm. He designed apartments, stores, a few small public buildings. He was building a career. And then, 1938.
The Nazis annexed Austria. Gruen was Jewish, socialist, and an architect whose designs had been celebrated in Vienna's design magazines. That combination made him a target. He was arrested. His firm was seized. His name was removed from every building he'd ever designed. He managed to get out barely. A friend in the United States sponsored his visa. He arrived in New York in 1938 with $8, 0 English, and a degree from an academy the Nazis now occupied. He was 35 years old and had to start over from nothing. He Americanized his name. Victor David Grunbaum became Victor David Gruen, and he started looking around at his new country, at the suburban sprawl eating up farmland, at houses with garages where front porches used to be, at a country that seemed to have forgotten how to be together. And then he had an idea so ambitious it bordered on absurd. What if you could bring the European town square to America? What if you could put it indoors? In 1950, the Hudson's department store in Detroit approached Gruen with a problem. They wanted to build a shopping center in the suburbs, but Detroit gets cold. Really cold. How do you create a space people want to visit when the wind chill is 20 below? Gruen's answer was Northland Center. It opened in March 1954 in a former farmer's field outside Detroit. It was open air, not enclosed yet, but it was revolutionary. a ring of 80 stores surrounding a 4-level Hudson's, landscaped courtyards, public art, benches, real benches, not the hostile architecture kind. A place where you could shop, yes, but also just be. Northland was a sensation. On opening day, they had to close the roads leading to it. The traffic was so bad. 40,000 people showed up on the first weekend. Hudson's realized they had accidentally discovered a gold mine, but Gruen wasn't satisfied. Northland was still open air. It was still, in his mind, a compromise. He wanted something bigger, something that would work in January. He wanted to take the European town square and put a roof on it. October 8, 1956, Edina, Minnesota, a suburb of Minneapolis, Southdale Center opens its doors. And it is, and I'm choosing this word carefully, beautiful. A central courtyard called the Garden Court, filled with tropical plants and natural light pouring in from a massive skylight. A goldfish pond with a bridge over it. A 50-foot birdcage filled with live canaries, yellow, singing, alive. There's a cafe where you can sit and listen to them. There's a community auditorium, a post office. At one point there was even a small zoo. Gruen wasn't building a shopping center. He was building a town center that happened to have stores in it. The shopping was the excuse. The community was the point. And here's the detail that changes how you see everything. He imagined people coming to Southdale not just to buy things, but to attend concerts, to visit art exhibitions, to see a doctor, to pick up their mail, to sit by the goldfish pond and read a book. He imagined children growing up with the canaries coming back years later and saying, "I remember those birds." 75,000 people came on opening weekend. The parking lots overflowed. The goldfish pond became the most photographed spot in Minnesota that year. Victor Gruen had done it. He had brought Vienna to the suburbs of Minneapolis. There was just one problem. Actually, there were two. The first problem, developers saw Southdale and didn't see a town square. They saw a formula, a machine for extracting money from suburban families. The community spaces, the auditorium, the post office, the zoo, these didn't generate revenue per square foot. They were wasted space. The stores were what mattered. The stores were where the money was. The second problem, the United States government had accidentally built a machine for manufacturing malls, and nobody had noticed. In 1954, 2 full years before Southdale even opened its doors, the Internal Revenue Service added a provision to the tax code. Section 167. Accelerated depreciation for commercial real estate. Here's what that means in plain English. Normally, if you build a building that costs $5 million, you spread the tax deduction across the entire life of the building 30, 40 years. But Section 167 said, you can deduct the entire thing in just 7 years. The government was essentially paying developers to build commercial real estate. It was a subsidy, wearing a tax break as a costume. And what happens when the government pays people to build something? They build too much of it. Way, way too much. Between 1960 and 1980, America built over 1,000 enclosed shopping malls. That's one new mall roughly every 5 days for 20 straight years. Malls in cities that didn't need them. Malls 10 miles from other malls. Developers weren't building stores to serve communities anymore. They were building tax shelters. The mall stopped being a town square and started being a financial instrument. By 1975, there were more than 1,200 enclosed malls in America. By 1986, you lived within a 30-minute drive of one, no matter where you were. The mall had become the default American public space, not because anyone decided it should be, but because the ears made it more profitable to build malls than to build almost anything else. And here is the quiet tragedy at the center of all of this. Victor Gruen watched every single one of these malls go up. and he became increasingly horrified. The man who had fled Vienna because he hated what unchecked greed did to cities was now watching unchecked greed devour his own creation. The fountains got smaller. The community spaces vanished. The bird cages were replaced by kiosks selling cell phone cases. Or not even that, just empty kiosks with a for lease sign. In 1978, Gruen did something almost unheard of in the history of architecture. He publicly renounced his own creation. He stood in front of a convention of shopping center developers, the very people who had made him rich and famous, and he told them, and I'm quoting as closely as the records allow, "I refuse to pay alimony for these bastard developments." He called them gigantic shopping machines that had destroyed the very downtowns they were supposed to save. He was booed. Victor Gruen, the father of the American mall, was booed off the stage by the developers who had gotten rich copying his idea. There's a term in consumer psychology named after Victor Gruen, the Gruen transfer. It describes the moment when you walk into a deliberately confusing retail environment and forget why you came. You lose your original intent. You start browsing. You start buying. The malls that copied Gruen's design had perfected this into a science. The escalators were positioned so you had to walk past 12 stores you didn't intend to visit. The lighting was calibrated to make merchandise look better than it did at home. The ambient temperature was set to slightly too warm, just enough that you'd buy a drink. The music was chosen to slow your walking speed by about 15%. Every single detail was engineered to keep you inside, keep you browsing, keep you spending. The man who wanted to build European town squares had, without meaning to, created a psychological manipulation machine. And then the machine started to break. 1994. A garage in Seattle, Washington, Jeff Bezos incorporates a company called Cadabra Yes, like abracadabra, and then immediately changes the name to Amazon, because his lawyer pointed out that Cadabra sounds too much like cadaver. The world's largest bookstore opens for business. But here's the thing. Amazon didn't kill the mall by itself. What Amazon did, along with Walmart supercenters, which were doing more damage than anyone admitted, was offer something the mall had stopped offering: convenience. The mall had spent 40 years stripping away everything that made it a place worth visiting. Between 1999 and 2019, Amazon's annual revenue went from $1.6 billion to $280 billion. In that same period, over 300 enclosed malls closed their doors permanently. Then came the anchor collapse. Sears, the original everything store, the company that literally sold houses out of a catalog, filed for bankruptcy in 2018. Macy's closed over 100 stores. JCPenney, the store your grandmother swore by, filed for bankruptcy in 2020. Bon Ton, Lord & Taylor, Toys R Us. One by one, the giant gravitational centers that held malls together just disappeared. An anchor store in a mall is like a heart in a body. When it stops beating, everything else dies. The smaller stores, the Radio Shacks, the KB Toys. The Walden Books depended on the foot traffic the anchors generated. When Sears closed, the traffic stopped. When Macy's left, the food court went silent. When JCPenney went dark, the entire wing went dark with it. By 2010, a new subculture had formed online: r/dead malls. People driving across the country, sometimes hundreds of miles, to photograph abandoned food courts like they were Roman ruins. Dan Bell's Dead Mall series on YouTube, millions of views, watching escalators that haven't moved in years, water-stained ceiling tiles, the ghost of a Radio Shack, a fountain that hasn't held water since the Clinton administration. Today, 68% of Americans live within 1 hour of a dead mall. 2 in 5 Americans live near 2 or more dead malls. Of the roughly 2,500 enclosed malls that existed in the 1980s, only about 700 remain, and analysts predict another 300 will close by 2030. But here's the thing that should haunt you. We're still doing it. Every generation builds its own version of the mall, some shiny new format that promises community and delivers a transaction. Food halls, co-working spaces, the metaverse. We keep building places to gather, and we keep stripping away everything that makes gathering worthwhile. Victor Gruen figured it out in 1978. The mall didn't fail because people stopped shopping. The mall failed because it stopped being a place. And when a place stops being a place, it becomes just a building. And buildings, no matter how big, no matter how shiny, can't survive on transactions alone.